Boruto episode 69, Super Cho-Cho Love Upheaval. So this, of course, is the end of the, I believe it was actually 3 episodes, the 3 episode filler arc. That's like some crazy flashbacks when I even say it's a 3 episode arc. It like takes me back to like the original Naruto. It was during like basically the last 3 or 4 seasons of that series. It was just a bunch of fillers and they were all 3 episodes. It drove me insane, but watched them all. But we end this episode, also ending the arc, going into what hopefully is just one filler episode. I'm just waiting. Like, I know that, more fillers, but I'm just waiting. But this was a good one. Once again, Cho-Cho's, like, her small 3 episode arc, I've actually enjoyed. This one, I think, was that middle ground where it was like, okay, there was some funny stuff here, but for the most part, it was pretty much all dramatic. Like, there's, like, a couple of minor things in here that I thought were pretty funny. But it wasn't like the last 2 episodes. This was the dramatic moment because, of course, it was the conclusion. So, of course, we have the big attack happening again. And then the main actor, he ends up being kidnapped. And so it's like, okay, well, they're left with the female actress. And so she's like, hey, I can't say exactly what's going on right now. But, of course, once everything's all said and done, then you guys can have the full story. So they go through the whole thing where it's like, oh man, we couldn't actually rescue him. Like the guy escaped. So Konohamaru went back to the city to inform Naruto about everything that's going on. So we have that playing out, and then of course it's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go through, and they're gonna have the lead actress, she kind of puts herself out there, like, I'll do it. He's my best friend, or I shouldn't say best friend, but we've been friends since we were kids. So even though we're distant, he still means a lot to me. So I'm gonna go out there. I can act as, it's no big deal. And so she goes out, does the rescue. I don't know why he climbed down the mountain. I don't know if any of you guys were confused about that, but I was like, why didn't he just go, like, the way she came? Like, she obviously didn't climb up the mountain, but it's like he was in a rush, and I was like, well, this doesn't make any sense. So, weird. It just didn't mean, I just didn't understand. I was like, why is he climbing down the mountain? I mean, obviously she walked up because there was a path somehow, and it was just like, just go in the forest or something, be like much safer than this. But he's like, I'm gonna climb down this mountain, even though that was not the safest thing. He almost fell. So I was like, okay. So he's going down the mountain, and of course she gets busted because the guy tries to give her back the money. She's like, what are you doing? Like, you've got your money, like, get out of here before people get suspicious. And it turns out that it's Konohamaru. We find out that they did actually end up capturing the person. He wouldn't give up a name, so of course they had to kind of put a ruse out there, and we find out that the main actress wanted to find a way to put herself back into the spotlight because the guy, of course, I don't remember either of their names. I remember his name was something like, it was almost like Ashura, but I think it was like Ashina or something like that, and I believe that was his name. That also could have been her name. Neither of these people matter, but point is, she was the villain, and it turned out that she didn't like him kind of taking over the show and everything, and that was like the main thing. She wanted to find a way to put herself back into the spotlight. And, she does this helpless thing to help an old friend, even though they'd been distant. She was still caring and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, so the mean side of her was the 100% truthful side of her. So that's unfortunate. She was a crappy person. And so things get crazy. And she's also super crazy because after her plan falls apart, where it was like, oh, well, I can't, be like this gracious person who was willing to go into this dangerous situation with an unknown, criminal. She's like, well, I'm just gonna whip out these paper bombs in a stack and just blow myself to pieces because that'll put her in the news. And I was like, wow, that took a sharp turn to like real super crazy town. So she tries to kill herself. Konohamaru saves her, and that was pretty much it. He saves her life, and then Cho-Cho has to finally come to the conclusion that which she actually gets from Mitsuki, which it was interesting, admittedly, that he was the one to do it, where he was like, of all the people, this is basically Mitsuki is the Sai of this series, and it's like, I just don't expect him to say stuff like that. So he gives her the roundabout talk about it doesn't matter what's on the outside, it matters what's within, the pure essence and stuff like that. Doesn't matter the flavor of the potato, or the flavor of the chip. If it comes from a rotten potato, then it sucks no matter what, stuff like that. So it's like, okay, he gave her that inspirational food-based speech, and she's like, all right, I gotta save his life. It doesn't matter what he thinks of me or anything like that, because I'm freaking awesome, which he is. I think Cho-Cho is actually one of the best characters in the show, admittedly. Like, even with this crappy filler arc, it was like, man, super funny, entertaining to watch. And I do still wish that we got more action out of it, but it is what it is on that regard. But it was definitely entertaining, and it was because Cho-Cho was going through this process. It made it really funny to see her as this character where we know she's like super out of control when it comes to just like I'm whatever, like I'm me, and you deal with it. I'm awesome no matter what you think, and that's pretty much it. So it's super funny, and it was actually entertaining because despite this being a filler, it actually has some decent development for her character. Even though I doubt it'll have like a grand impact, it's one of those things where you can look back on and be like, that was, even though it was thrown in there as a 3 episode filler arc, it's still entertaining. It did provide a little bit of character depth for her because even Sadara says like in this episode, this is never you. Like you never give a crap what anybody thinks about anything, but it's because you have a big crush on this actor and now you get to meet him. You're kind of just stuck in this mode where you're not, admittedly, not as useful as you could be because you're not as powerful. So I like the way that it was handled and the way it played out. And of course she rescues the guy at the end and makes him realize that he was a crappy person. It's like, wow, like you're amazing, and you made me basically realize that fat people are cool people too. Yeah, that's pretty much what happened with the guy because he was a douchebag. But she goes through. She was super cool, and I love the scene at the end. Admittedly, it was one of my favorite parts just because it was so simple. Where she mentions like, I like to give potato chips to people that I like, and he was like, oh, that's cool. Maybe we can reconnect at some point in the future. And basically, she was being nice, but telling him off. I was like, oh, you better stay on your toes because you got a lot of competition. And so when she walks away, she actually hands the chips to Mitsuki. And I was like, well, that's definitely a cool little moment. So I thought that was nice. And that was just her, going through that moment and kind of getting over this dude who was a douchebag and realizing that regardless of whether or not you have a crush on this person, they aren't as important as what you think of yourself and who you really, are no matter what. So I thought that was pretty cool. They did take it back, which was funny with Mitsuki when he was eating the chips. For one, the fact that Orochimaru was like, what has you eating, which I thought was interesting. So does he not need to eat? Like, I guess I've never thought about it, but I don't think we've ever actually seen him eat before. Like, whenever they're at the restaurant, I don't think he's ever actually eating or drinking anything. So it was interesting when he said that. I was like, they're at that restaurant like every other episode, and I don't think I've ever seen him like pick up a burger. Maybe once, but I could just be making that up because they're in the restaurant so often. I just kind of assume like, yeah, just everybody's eating, but I don't know if there's ever been a moment where he's even been drinking anything. So it was kind of funny when they said that. I was like, does he not eat? Does he not need to eat or drink anything to legitimately survive? So I thought that was funny. But then of course they go to the idea of whether Orochimaru is his his mom or his dad, and I thought that was funny. It was like, oh, it doesn't matter, because I know the true essence and stuff. And I just thought that was funny that they're playing around with this idea. Like, technically, like, we know Orochimaru is a man. Like, we know that factually. Like, if you go through like all the flashbacks they've had, is a dude. Like, that is what it is. He's been a woman, but unless he was a woman at birth, I assume Orochimaru is a man, regardless of whether or not he's actually played by one. So it's funny that they have that idea, like why Orochimaru couldn't seem to like just say that when they had that. But I guess that was the point of being weird about it, because I'm like, he's a guy. Like, we've seen the flashbacks. Like, he is a man. We've seen him as a kid, like basically in the beginning of the series when the third Hokage was like dying and stuff, when he has the little moment where it like goes to him and he's a little kid, he's a little boy. So it's like, and I'm pretty sure there are flashbacks of him as a little boy too. So I'm like, we know he's a guy. So it was just weird that they kind of held that off. But it kind of came full circle at the end where it's like, I can answer that question for you now. And then it's like, oh, it doesn't matter if you're my mom or my dad, because in the end, I know your true essence, and that's all that really matters. So I thought that was interesting. Also the fact that he was even meeting with Orochimaru like at his house, because I thought the whole point was that he was like super duper far away, but I guess technically so were they. Like, they weren't at the village, so maybe it was that weird in-between thing. But that was kind of like the big point of him going to the Hidden Leaf Village, is that he was like really far away from home, and it was just him, or compared to being with Orochimaru and Suigetsu and Jugo and Kanin. Like, that's kind of his family, and then he left to like make a new family. So it was interesting. He was just like at home eating chips. I'm like, they're like super far away. It was just funny to me, where it's like it dawned on me for a quick second, like, the whole point of him leaving was that it was like this grand journey, and he's just like hanging out with Orochimaru. I didn't think of that the last time he was there, but I thought about it in this one, because I'm like, wait a minute, why is he at home? It was just a random thing. But totally irrelevant, doesn't matter. It just kind of popped out in my head when I was watching this episode, but definitely enjoyed it. Looking forward to the next one. I'm really hoping that there's a decent amount of action. I assume it'll at least be funny because it's dealing with Metal Lee learning. I would assume at least the first gate. He's learning about the 8 gate, so we'll see what happens. Excuse me. We'll see what happens with that, but I am looking forward to it. Like I said, mostly because I'm hoping we'll get some decent action. Hoping we'll get some decent action. We do have Iwabei and Denki in there. Iwabei at least will give us, a cool fight scene. I don't know about Denki, but Iwabei will give us some sweet action. So I hope we get some good action. I assume it'll be funny because admittedly, Metal Lee, it's a very simple comedy, but it's effective. Like him getting nervous when, with the crowds and everything. So I think that could lead to some cool stuff. They'll probably lose all the fights we're going to see, but I think it'll still be entertaining. And I'm hoping this doesn't end up being a 3-episode arc. Maybe just one and done, and then hopefully onto the main story. But I assume we're going to have fillers for a while now. So either way, we'll see what happens with the next episode. But of course, we'd love to know what you guys thought about the end of this 3-episode Cho-Cho arc. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, least favorite parts about it. And I definitely want to know your favorite moment from this arc. Like, what did you like the most? Even though it was a filler arc, you got to pull something out of it. Every once in a while, we do get some good fillers. And I think, admittedly, we've had far worse. Even in this series, we've had far worse filler episodes. So I think this was actually pretty good as far as fillers, kind of across the board. I thought these were 3 decent episodes. The first 2 I thought were really funny, and this one was, kind of the dramatic episode. But like I said, that character depth, even though it may go nowhere, because technically this was a filler, maybe we'll actually get to see that kind of come into play. They'll, make something up later on where it actually has an impact about her having to realize that she needs to just trust herself and be who she is. So maybe it'll come into play, maybe it won't. But either way, I like the character depth, and I definitely enjoyed the comedy of the first 2 episodes. But like I said, I definitely want to know what you guys thought about it. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.